Hey, welcome to day 2 of the Smarter, Faster, Better book club, a book by Charles Duhigg. And yesterday we talked about motivation. How do you get it? How do you influence it? You can hone it like a skill through your sense of control and authority over your environment. And today we're going to talk about what's the number one thing that's important when you're looking for a place to work, an environment that you're going to spend most of your life during the week. What's the number one thing to look for? So in 1994, there were 2 Stanford professors, and this is what they taught. They taught that the way a business treats its workers, this company culture and the sense of trust among employees, that was really important, and that had an effect on profitability. Now in 1994, that wasn't as widely accepted as it is today. So students would ask these professors every year, well, how do you know? Do you have the data to back that up? And they didn't. So they started collecting millions of data points, tons and tons of data points. For the next 10 years, they looked at companies, and they looked at everything. They looked at how did they hire people, fire, promote, how long were people there, what happened to college dropouts who became billionaires, and then they saw billionaires who lost everything. They looked at so many data points, and they found 5 different cultures that they could identify. And there was one that came out a consistent winner in profitability and so many other areas. Okay, so maybe you'll recognize somewhere you've been when I talk about these 5 commitment cultures. And I have 5 markers to represent the 5 cultures. Okay, number 1 is a STAR team. This is something you read about in articles. Maybe you've worked at a place like this. STAR team, they recruit from elite universities. Venture capitalists love funding this type of place because they're like, we're funding the A team. And you have lavish perks like a fancy cafeteria. That's the STAR culture. Next one is the engineering culture, where you have a lot of engineers working on technical problems, and these tend to grow fast and on the same path because a bunch of engineers, they have the same social norms and expectations. The next 2 are very similar. You have the bureaucratic, hold on, I didn't want to use green. You have the bureaucratic and the autocratic model. Bureaucratic is what you expect. A lot of paperwork, a lot of established norms, rules, guidelines, weekly meetings, talking about where you reinforce company values. And then the autocratic culture is similar. Everything's written down, organizational charts. What's different is everything leads up to the CEO. An example of something a CEO in this autocratic model has said is, you work, you do what I say, and you get paid. So it all goes back up to that one person. The final category is it's a green marker because it's a green light category, is a commitment culture. And this is a place where you have leaders that you want to build the type of company where people want to, they only leave when they retire or when they die. Like, people just want to stay there. Kind of a throwback to when people worked for many, many years at just one place, but which can almost sound outdated, like, oh, that's so 20 years ago. But this type of place, when times are tough, they're going to hire HR professionals and work on culture, whereas a typical Silicon Valley startup will hire salespeople and engineers. But they believe in getting the people and the culture right before designing the best product. That's a commitment culture. And when these researchers looked at 10 years of data on all these environments, of course the STAR teams, they did well, but it wasn't consistent. The only place that performed consistently well were the places with this commitment culture. And what set them apart is an atmosphere of trust among employees, and it's very people focused. Commitment focused companies tend to know their customers very well, better than other companies tend to know their customers. And what happens is, because people love their jobs, they just entice each other to work harder. And because they love their customers so much, they work harder. So they don't have, commitment cultures, they don't have these lavish cafeterias and fancy perks, but they do have profitability and long, slow, and steady growth over time. And customers tend to stay loyal because they can have a relationship with this place for years. And commitment culture firms are dodging something that other type of other cultures have to deal with. They are not dealing with lost profits that happen when an employee takes clients to another competitor. So one of these researchers said, good employees are always the hardest asset to find. When everyone wants to stick around, you've got a pretty strong advantage. So when you're when you're trying to decide what type of environment do I want to be in, the number one thing, according to Charles Duhigg and these two Stanford researchers, is company culture. Being somewhere where people trust each other and think about the long term, where they love their customers. That's it for today. Talk to you tomorrow.